Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another episode. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'll recognize this week's guest. She's a returning guest from episode 48, which seems like so long ago. But Anna runs the Etsy shop Bear Sandals, and now she runs two, but we're going to get into all that. And I'm really happy to have her back on the podcast because she's coming back with a lot of information that she's learned between when she was last on the podcast and now. So Anna, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Oh, thank you for coming back on. So let's just recap and remind people who you are.
Sure. So my name is Anna and I run the shop Bear Sandals. I have had an Etsy shop since April 2013. And I was on the podcast during the episode number 48. So you should definitely check that out before you listen to this one. And now I actually run two stores on Etsy. One is obviously Bear Sandals, and the other one is called Heart of Wonder. You can check it out there. And what I do is I make handcrafted foot jewelry for brides that are having their wedding day on a beach or some sort of destination wedding.
And what about Heart of Wonder?
That is everything else. Bracelets, handcrafted earrings, hand jewelry, actually head chains now as well. So everything else is in the second shop.
Great. So Anna, first of all, I'm really happy to have you back on. I like it a lot when former guests want to come back and share their journey from when they were here originally and where they are now. So let's talk about that. I know between the last time and now, a lot has happened for not just your Etsy shop, but also your website, Bear Sandals. And you have the new shop as well. But let's talk about what you've learned between then and now and how all that has helped you.
Sure. Just want to comment on, in terms of like the actual numbers. I mean, I think the last time we spoke, I had about 200 sales on Etsy, and right now I have over 1,100 sales. Last time we spoke, I had like 45 reviews or something like that. Yeah. And now I have like 250 five-star reviews. So it's been an awesome time, and I love working with jewelry and making it. So it's been an incredible experience for the last 2 years. With that in mind, there's so many things that I've learned because I mean, I'm sure you remember from last time, I'm one of those people that watches documentaries and listens to podcasts as I do my work.
Right.
The information keeps coming on a consistent basis. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the back end, if you don't mind first, and then we can jump into something else.
That sounds good. So what's the back end?
All right. So the back end, I think number one thing that for any kind of crafter to keep in mind is the very, very important thing you need to do first is to register your business. All right. You can do that by going to legalzoom.com. This is where I went to register my business. And I am now a sole owner of an LLC. So what that means basically is that you file your taxes and you just indicate that you filed the Schedule C taxes. And what you can do is you can use LegalZoom for about $300 for application, and they do all of that paperwork for you. So you don't have to send anything to the state. You don't have to send anything to the IRS. They do everything for you. And like to me personally, I'm not really good at paperwork. I think it's tedious and super boring and annoying. So I'd rather pay somebody that kind of money to do it for me.
Anna, for LegalZoom, just to be clear, do they charge you a fee on top of the taxes that you pay? Because I know to register at LLC, at least in California, I can speak for California, right up front, you pay an $800 registration fee. Does LegalZoom add their own fee on top of that? Because I would assume as a middleman, they make some kind of commission.
They add $125, which is their commission. Okay. And then what you have to do is you have to pay a quote unquote registered agent, at least for New Jersey you do. And that's a yearly fee of, I believe, $150. But that doesn't go to LegalZoom, it goes to the state.
Okay. And for someone who let's say like you and me doesn't want to or doesn't know all, the ins and outs, and they want to go through a middle company like LegalZoom, are they able to at least read up on what their state requirements are on the LegalZoom website? Or did you go to your state government website and first read up on what the requirements were and then use LegalZoom?
LegalZoom just tells you like the basic information that you need to know. If somebody wants to really get in depth of finding out exactly what's needed, then I would definitely recommend going to the state's website. For New Jersey website for businesses, it's super difficult because literally if you are in New Jersey and you know how to pay sales taxes, etc., you go to their website and you're like, what? Where do I have to go now? Like their website is not user friendly at all. Okay. So it helped LegalZoom because they give you different outlines and different topics that you can actually search further on when you register your business with LegalZoom. So they give you basically pointers, and then you can read a little bit more information about each of those pointers.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, sure. So after you register your business with the state / the IRS, whatnot, they're going to give you an IAN, which is your tax ID number. And super important, you can use that number to open wholesale accounts and use them to purchase your supplies. Now, this is like one of the most important things I've done since the last time we spoke, because previously what I used to do is I used to go to Michael's and Joann's and Hobby Lobby and just buy a bunch of stuff there and spend a ton of money. And I would obviously go on sale times and bring my coupons with me, but I would still have to pay retail price. Mm-hmm. So the best thing to do is to find suppliers that you can use for your business and actually open a wholesale account with them. Mm-hmm. For jewelry makers, I recommend Darris.com, Cousin.com, and JFAllen.com. Those are the 3 top suppliers that I use. Darris is actually, you can find everything that Michael's store has on Darris's website, and you're buying it at 50% off. I mean, you can't really beat 50% off at all.
Right. Anna, can you repeat those 3 suppliers that you said you used? Darris.com was the first one.
Yep. Darris.com, Cousin.com, JFAllen.com. JF Allen is out of Rhode Island, and they carry a lot of Swarovski and other types of crystals and whatnot. So that's also 50% off. Also, occasionally I use Beadmaster, but Beadmaster requires you to have a $150 minimum order, and that's a little bit steep just because sometimes I only need a couple of things, and $150, it's a little bit expensive. So
okay. And that's huge because in order to maximize your profit margin, you want to not be buying retail. But I think most sellers, especially when they're trying out the waters, do start off just shopping retail to see if something will take off. But if you're on a trajectory and you see this becoming a long-term thing, you want to definitely get your EIN number and get a wholesale account, or what they call a seller's permit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super important. And I've been saving a ton of money. I mean, obviously, I still go to Michael's sometimes if an order comes in and I realize that I didn't order enough supplies and I need to get something really, really quickly. But I have a lot more self-control, so to speak, because when I go there, I'm like, all right, calm down, Anna. Like, you can't buy everything that you see. Just wait until you get home, go online and order that online. 50% off.
All right. Okay, so we're set up with our business. We set up our business entity, get our business aligned with the IRS. We have our EIN. Now we can get a seller's permit and open wholesale accounts so we can buy in bulk at below retail prices.
Yep.
Okay.
And so the next thing you want to do, obviously, is you are trying to now create your items with the supplies that you have that you purchased for 50% off. And so what I started to do, and this is actually, I just started recently doing this, is releasing collections versus releasing one single item. So in the past, I would just, drive in my car to work and hang out. And all of a sudden this idea came to my mind and I would be like, okay, I'm going to drop everything and go and make this pair right now. Right. And I would be so excited. I would make this one pair, take pictures of it right off the bat, write a little listing and put it up on Etsy and bam, it's on there and people can buy it. Well, at some point I realized that I have like 250 designs that are unique and just completely different and they don't really go with anything else in my shop. So I decided to try releasing collections. So now what I do is if I have like an idea that comes to mind, I usually write it down first and see how it's going to fit with other ideas that pop into my head. If there's some sort of correlation, then I'm going to say, all right, you know what? I'm going to just create a collection of similar pieces that have something in common. Now, when you have a single item, you post it on Facebook, you post it on Pinterest, great, that's wonderful, but you don't really get that much press from it. When you have a collection and you release a collection, you can write a press release, you can submit that collection to different magazines for publications and things like that, because you're more likely to get press if you have multiple items that you are trying to show off versus when you have just one item in your shop. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense, actually. I remember hearing, I don't know if you know Renee Christine. I'll link to one of her websites. And she was the first person I heard who put forth the idea of making collections. And I think it's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely true. So when you're making your jewelry or when you're making your craft, it's super important also to write down how you make it, how long it takes, and the materials you're going to need. Like 2 years ago, I didn't do that. And so there was very little consistency. And so what you want to do is you want to build consistency because let's say one pair of bare sandals takes me like an hour and a half, right? And then the other one takes me 30 minutes. How are you supposed to know how you're supposed to price those sandals that take you 30 minutes versus an hour and a half? Obviously, the ones that take you an hour and a half are going to be a little bit more expensive. So you need that information so you can easily reproduce the sandals over and over again, or another piece of jewelry or another craft that you're into, to make that process seamless and easier. Because if you don't write it down how you make it, chances are as your shop grows, you're going to forget exactly what you did. Yeah. And then you're going to be going back to your listings, rereading them, wasting time looking at pictures, trying to figure out what did you do exactly there and how did you get it done. And just spending a lot of time doing that stuff, which was what I used to do. And now I don't. Yay.
And now, good. So you have somewhere that you track your processes for each item.
Just have like a super simple writing tablet, one of those notebooks, and each page has a different design. And since I vary my pairs by size, I usually have about 3 sketches and then, just simple arrows pointing to each part of the sandals, showing like how many beads I used or how many crystals are there and etc. So just so you have an idea, or just so I have an idea. If I get, for example, an order of medium sandals, I won't have to go back to the photos and count how many beads I used in this particular design. You just look at the writing tablet and say, all right, got it. I got 15 beads. Here I go.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought about that. Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's definitely helpful because you're spending a lot of time, backtracking in a way. But now you don't have to. So after you've finished handcrafting your sandals or jewelry or whatever else you make, it's important to have a good shipping supplier where you buy your shipping supplies.
Yes.
And so before I used to go to Staples and buy, shipping tape and little bubble envelopes from Staples, spending, again, a lot of money, unnecessary. So now I use 2 companies for my shipping supplies. And the first company is supplywarehouse.com. And basically what this company does is they provide you jewelry displays. They provide you with little tiny boxes. They provide you with big boxes. They provide you with bubble mailers, shipping tape, tissue paper, regular bags that you can use for craft shows. I mean, everything you can think of in terms of running a business that is product-based, you can purchase on their website. And the price is actually very, very good. I mean, in my opinion, for example, for 100 3x5 cotton filled boxes, I paid like $24. So that's not bad at all.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, bubble envelopes as well. For 100, 8x5 bubble envelopes, it's like $30. Not bad at all.
No.
A lot better than going to the dollar store and paying $1 for one.
Yes. Which at some point seemed like a bargain, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then the second website I use is usboxcorp.com. And they're a little bit more customized in terms of they specialize in shipping boxes. So what you can do with them is you can actually upload your logo and then select how your logo will look on a box of your choice. So for my new collection, I just launched a collection a couple of days ago, actually. It's called Goddess Collection. All of the designs in the Goddess Collection feature Swarovski crystals, and they're very, very fancy and very sparkly. So I wanted to kind of upgrade the shipping boxes to something more lavish, so to speak. So I used US Box Corp to purchase the boxes from there. Now, the pricing is definitely a little bit more expensive than Supply Warehouse because they actually can engrave your logo in the box. So you don't have to purchase stickers to stick them on your boxes. You can just actually get it engraved. So, you save a little bit of money on that.
Yeah.
But I do have to kind of give you guys a heads up that they do charge you $150 first time you upload the design. This is because they want to keep that design in, I guess they store all of the logos they receive. And then eventually, if you reorder from them again, they can just, put your logo on the boxes of your choice and then ship it out to you. But there is an initial $150 fee, just so people are aware.
And that's a one-time fee, right? That's for the logo design.
Yeah, that's just a one-time fee. Yep.
And then on average, do you have to order a minimum number of boxes or packages with each order that you make through them?
Through US Box, there are different types of boxes, and the more expensive boxes, and by that I mean boxes that cost about $2 per box, the minimum order is $50. And then for smaller boxes or boxes that are a little bit more simpler, usually the minimum order is $100. And that goes the same for the Supply Warehouse.
Okay. And again, all these boxes will have your logo on them.
Right.
Okay.
So you don't have to, usually I would go to Vistaprint and buy a bunch of stickers from Vistaprint and then, buy boxes separately and then stick the sticker on the box and then ship it out. But now for this new collection, I'm trying to see if this is actually a little bit better for me to just have my logo on the box, and it looks a little bit more classy. Yeah. Just my personal opinion, but, it's just an option.
Okay. Well, good to know.
So when you're after you have shipped everything to your customers, the one thing I learned is to use Aweber. And Aweber is a website. It's kind of like MailChimp. And the difference between MailChimp and Aweber is huge because MailChimp is awesome and Aweber is not. Not to hate on Aweber or not. But Aweber is not very user-friendly. And if you guys use MailChimp, you obviously know that you can just drag and drop any kind of aspect of your email. But unfortunately, MailChimp doesn't have an Etsy integration app or platform. Aweber does. So what Aweber does is you just basically connect your Etsy shop to Aweber. And after a customer has made a purchase, Aweber automatically sends them an email saying something like, hey, would you like to join the so-and-so's, newsletter to get special discounts, offers, and discounts. And so the customer can subscribe to your email, or they can just ignore the email and their email does not get put on your list.
Yeah.
So that's really important for building your newsletter list.
Can I just throw one thing in there? I too tried Aweber in the past, and like you said, I found it not very user friendly. It was hard for me. I know some people love it, and I've also tried MailChimp. I now use Mad Mimi, and I have to give them a shout out because it's like a combination of Aweber and MailChimp, and they also have an Etsy integration.
Yeah, and just to add on that, I totally use MailChimp for everything. And what I usually do is I'll wait like a month until I have people subscribe to my newsletter on Aweber. And then at the end of the month, I'll just go back and I'll open MailChimp and Aweber. And I'll just literally input those people's emails into MailChimp on the same list of my previous ones, just because everybody's going to be together and kind of have the same thing going on. And then I'll just erase them from Aweber because I really don't ever send email through Aweber. It's just there for the Etsy purposes, and that's it.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. So you use both then. Aweber really to capture new subscribers, and then MailChimp to actually communicate with them.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it on the back end stuff. There's a ton of other things I could share with you guys, but we will be here all day.
And we still need to talk about your new shop and your website too.
Yes, absolutely. I do want to share a couple of things I learned about Etsy listings and photography. If you don't mind, we can just talk a little bit about.
I was actually going to mention, I noticed that you're doing something different with the bear sandals for photo, your listing. What's the word I'm trying to look for? The pictures that you use. So yeah, let's talk about that.
Awesome. So the first thing you want to do is when you're writing your listing is to make a list of keywords that you think that your ideal customer would use to search for your items. And so, for example, for me personally, a lot of my buyers search for barefoot sandals or foot jewelry or anklets. So you want to have a list of maybe at least 15 keywords that you can use throughout your listings. And you have to use them in all three things. You have to use them in your titles, those keywords, the descriptions, and then your tags. And so I found, and I did this randomly one time, and it worked like crazy. And this listing still is one of my best sellers. What I did was I made my title, the first sentence of my descriptions, and all of my tags match in chronological order. So I know this sounds crazy and kind of confusing, so I'm going to explain.
Yeah, break it down for us, Anna.
So for example, let's say I have a listing and the name of the listing is turquoise, barefoot sandals, blue foot jewelry, bohemian anklet, right? So that's like 8 words in the title, which is okay. But what you want to do is you want to fill the entire space of your title until you have no more space to write anything with as many keywords as you can fit. The good keyword to start with is color, because a lot of Etsy buyers, they're searching for listing by color. So, for example, for my listing, it's turquoise, barefoot sandals, blue foot jewelry, bohemian anklet. I know it's not an attractive name, okay? Whatever. Don't judge me.
It makes sense when you repeat it twice in your head.
Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to take those keywords like turquoise, like barefoot sandals, blue, barefoot jewelry, and anklet, and stick them in the first sentence of your listing, of the actual description. Now, you shouldn't write the same thing as your title, because then you're going to sound like you're a crazy person. But you can say something like this. These stunning turquoise barefoot sandals are handcrafted using blah, 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 blah. And then go into your, creating process. So what you're doing is you're putting the keyword turquoise, and you're also using barefoot sandals, which is another one of your keywords, in the description. And what happens is when Google actually picks up your listing on their search, they are looking for the basically for your titles and your descriptions to match. And because you have that first sentence with those important keywords and your title has those keywords too, you end up ranking higher in their search. And this is true, the same thing for Etsy. Now, Etsy has another step to this process, and that's adding the tags. So we have our title, and it's filled with amazing keywords that you found. Then you have your description, which the first sentence kind of puts on top your top 3, keywords that you should be, people should be looking at your listing for. And then you have your tags. And this is the craziest trick I've ever, learned in the last 2 years, is that if you match your tags with your title in exact chronological order, you're going to rank higher. And so if my sandals title is turquoise, barefoot sandals, blue foot jewelry, bohemian anklet, then my first tag should be turquoise. Yeah. My second tag should be barefoot sandals. My third tag should be blue. And then my fourth tag should be foot jewelry. And then my fifth tag can be just jewelry. Yeah. Right? And then my sixth tag should be bohemian. And then seventh should be anklet. And then eighth could be bohemian anklet, because that will fit into the 20 character field that you're allowed to do.
And that's actually what I was going to ask you next, was what if you have a keyword or a phrase that is more than the 20 characters? Is it better to split them into two?
Yeah, you would just split them into two, but the key
next to each other.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Key is to keep them next to each other and keep it in the chronological order as your title. And I actually did that a year ago, and that particular listing that I tested on is still now on the first page of the search for barefoot sandals. It's still there. So it works. Everything else is kind of, it's on the second page, on the third page, on the fourth page. But that particular listing that I tested this on the first time, I was like, oh my God, look at me, I'm on the first page. Woo woo.
So Anna, but do you do it only for that one listing, or you do it for others? But because of, I know Etsy tries not to show like multiple listings from one shop all on the same, like all on the first page. So if you use that same strategy for other listings, then do you see those listings appear on, one on page 2, then one on page 3, and then one on page 4, like that?
Yeah, basically what I did was, after I saw that this was working, I did it for all of the rest of the new listings that I kept adding to my shop. Okay. And what I noticed is that, let's say you have 100 listings in your shop, you have one quantity available for each item. So let's say somebody purchases that particular listing that is now on page 1, your other listing now from your shop is going to fill the same spot on your page 1.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense? Because if you do it for all of the listings, if your item gets sold out, you don't have to worry about panicking and going and changing your tags and titles right off the minute, because everything else is done, and basically just another item from your shop fulfills that same spot.
Just moves forward. Okay.
Right. So that's definitely helpful, because if you continue to be on the first couple of pages of your particular keywords, your sales and your views kind of, they improve a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Now, how do you brainstorm keywords? I think for some products, it's easier. Like, with the example you just gave, color is a big one. And then, you repeat the phrase that people are searching for. But how else because with the tags, you have a good 13 that you can come up with. How do you recommend people brainstorm good keywords that a buyer would be using to search for their product?
That's like a super important question, because you really have to sit down and think about who your customer is. Because if you're trying to sell it to everybody on Etsy, then you're really not being specific enough, and you're targeting too many people, and you're really not going to sell a lot of your product. You really have to sit down and ask yourself, who is willing to buy my product? So to give you guys an example, primarily the people that I try to target are brides, people that are getting married and they're having their wedding at some sort of destination wedding, because obviously, you can buy my product and wear them around the house, but it's some of the sandals are very fancy, and I bet people don't want to walk around their garden and like Swarovski crystals on their feet. Like, that's just ridiculous.
You never know. They could be living the fabulous life.
One day, right? One day. So you really have to ask yourself, who is willing to buy my product, and what purpose do they need my product for? So what I do is usually I sit down and I kind of just brainstorm keywords by looking at my products. And so, for example, another keyword that I would use is Swarovski or chained foot jewelry, things like that, or destination wedding sandals, beach wedding sandals, bridesmaids gift, things like that. So why are people buying your product? Who is your customer? And what purpose does your products give them? Why do they want to buy your product particularly? You just want to think about those things and write it down on a piece of paper. And you don't have to, don't judge yourself when you're doing this. I mean, if you think that someone's buying your product because they want to give it to their grandma, write it down. Like, you're going to need that information when you go back and just look at the keywords and look at the things that repeat themselves. Again, like I said, for example, I am all about destination weddings. So when I go back, I look at how can I say destination wedding in another way? How can I say sandals for a beach wedding in a different way? Things like that.
Okay. Good. Thanks. That makes sense. That helps.
Yay.
Okay. So with the listings SEO, we talked about keywords and how to organize them and format them, not just for Etsy, but also for Google, because you want people who are looking for something on, and not just Google, I should say, but other search engines who are looking for things out there outside of Etsy to, find you in the major search engines. So yeah, we have that down. Anything else as far as SEO and pulling in organic traffic?
Yes, absolutely. Couple things. I promise I won't bore you.
No, this is not boring.
First of all, don't write like 17 pages in your description, because I used to do that. I used to write really long descriptions and people wouldn't read them because they don't care. I swear to God, in my every listing, it's like, hey, production takes like 5 days. And people would message me all the time. How long does the production take? I'm like, did you guys read my listings at all? Like, what the heck, And so what happened is, when your listing description is really, really, really long, no one's reading to the bottom, especially if they're shopping on their mobile devices. No one is reading the entire listing description. So you want to make sure that you have about 3 to 4 paragraphs of the description, but no longer than that, because after some time, people just don't care, to be honest with you. At least that's what I found true to be for me. And then for the photos, here's the thing. I see a lot of awesome things on Etsy and awesome designers, but their photos are not so awesome. And it makes me kind of cringe a little bit. And I think I said the same thing last episode as well.
Yeah.
The photos really have to capture your product in the best possible way ever. And also what I noticed is that you have your regular photos on a white background with good lighting and whatnot. But if you include in one of your photos like a lifestyle photo, showing the person either wearing your item or like if you're selling blankets, like laying on the grass in your blanket, have an amazing time, something like this that shows a lifestyle, people tend to relate to that more because they can see a practical use for that. For example, I had a couple of blogs feature my sandals. And so when I included those photos in the listings, I got a lot more views and a lot more sales. So I do want to mention that.
Oh, so when you included the photos from the magazine, from the blog, of people actually wearing, like showing your sandals in action.
Right. I would get a lot more views and a lot more favorites and a lot more sales. Yep.
Okay. That makes sense.
Just to touch up on the photos a little bit more, I do want to share with you guys that I have not used Photoshop ever until about 3 months ago. And I've decided to just splurge and buy Photoshop, which wasn't really a splurging. It was like $84 on Amazon. And so I ended up getting Photoshop's Elements 13. Now, look, I don't really like editing photos. I think it's terrible waste of time for me personally. I hate it. I know nothing about it. And Elements 13 is awesome because you have 3 types of modes in Photoshop. You have the easy edit, then there's a little bit more advanced, I guess, and then the typical Photoshop option. So when you open Photoshop Elements 13, if you don't know anything about editing photos, you don't have to go to the advanced option. You could just stay in your little quick mode, edit mode, I guess, and do all of your editing there because it's so easy. Like you literally, there's a cropping tool, you hit crop and then you crop your photo, or adjust, highlights, and then you just move your cursor over and adjust the highlights. It's so easy. You'll have no idea. I mean, I can't believe I've been missing out on Photoshop all these years.
So Anna, let me ask you, what's the difference between the full-blown Photoshop, just plain one, and then Elements 13?
Just Elements 13 offers like those 3 modes where it's the easy mode, the intermediate mode, and then the advanced mode.
So it strips out all the other stuff.
Right. So if you're really good at Photoshop and you really know what you're doing and you're combining photos and you're making logos and all that shenanigans, you can go straight to the advanced mode and still have the typical Photoshop options. It's the same thing. Okay. But if you're like me, who's not really into photo editing that much, and I know how to do some stuff, but I'm not really crazy about going, and working on combining pictures and taking out backgrounds and whatnot, then you can just stick to the easy/intermediate option, and Photoshop makes it a lot simpler to work because it offers you like very friendly buttons that you can use, and there's no complicated tools. It's just very like spelled out for you.
Okay.
So it's super easy. Yeah.
Did you ever try any of the free online photo editing programs like Pixlr or PicMonkey or Canva?
Yes, I've used PicMonkey. Yes.
Okay.
I like it. Definitely super easy to use, and actually it's very comparable to Photoshop. It's it's a little bit different. Like PicMonkey is a little bit more limited than Photoshop, obviously, because for example, if I'm making a banner and I want certain things to be see-through on that banner, so the actual background of the website would come through it, then PicMonkey doesn't really allow me to do that. But in Photoshop, it's super, super, super easy to do.
Okay.
So yeah, it's very comparable. So if people don't really want to spend like $80 on Photoshop, they can definitely stick to PicMonkey, and I've found that to be very, very user-friendly.
Okay. When you were getting yourself up to speed with Photoshop Elements, did you find it was helpful to, how you can go on YouTube and, there are like a million people who can tell you to do all, different things. Did you use any of those types of resources, or was it really self-explanatory? Like anybody can really just get in there and figure it out?
For the easy section, like the easy edit and the intermediate mode, you really don't need tutorials at all. But then once I started to learn a little bit more advanced techniques, like for example, when I take pictures, I obviously use my own 2 feet as the model. And so sometimes, I run tracks. So sometimes you get a blister on your foot. You want to take it out because that looks unattractive in photos. I would actually use YouTube to see how that can be done in Photoshop, and then use the advanced mode to edit my blister out. That sounds gross, doesn't it? Why am I talking about blisters?
Hey, it happens. Okay, that's good. Because I recently also just bought Photoshop, and I've been ODing on YouTube tutorials, and
it's helpful. You can stay on YouTube all day. It just doesn't get old.
Yeah, and that's the problem I'm having is I'm spending more time watching the tutorials and, not as much as I want to actually doing stuff because, you can learn forever and never do, which is another problem.
Yeah, definitely. Also, just want to say one more thing. Lighting equipment is not necessary. It's not, you don't have to have it, but it does help. For example, if you want to shoot something at night, you don't have to wait until the daylight to shoot your photos if you do have lighting equipment. Mm-hmm. And the lighting equipment that I bought was actually only $34 on Amazon as well. And it's called Limo Studio lighting set. And what basically it comes with two tripods to hold those big professional lights. Yeah. And then, the umbrella lights that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it comes with 2 big umbrella lights, the tripod for them, and also 2 huge light bulbs. They're like the size of my head. Mm. So you can literally buy that stuff on Amazon for $40. And it's been like one of the best investments I've ever made in terms of photography, because you don't have to wait until that perfect day with the perfect lighting to shoot your photos. You could just put up the lighting equipment, set up your little shop or your studio, and then shoot away.
Wow.
Definitely helpful.
Nice. So then that gives you, so let me backtrack. I see on your, and I'm looking at the Bare Sandals, you have some outdoor photography and then some that are not outdoors.
Yes.
Okay. So if one can't get to, because the outdoor one looks just gorgeous, but then also the indoor, well, I shouldn't say indoor because I don't know where it was taken, but the indoor one that looks like you're like in the air floating, is that something you can do with the studio setup?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, with the one that looks like I'm floating, it's just me sitting on a stool, and I bought a white poster board, and basically I scotch tape it to the stool, and I put a little tripod camera with the remote control on, a couple of feet in front of me, and then I just remote control click it takes the picture, and it's good.
You really are a one-woman show, aren't you?
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
But it's good.
And so,
it's good. One
more thing. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you.
Yeah, no, go on.
A really helpful app for photos for the phone is Studio app. If you're into making graphics, you can make a banner that says sale or 1 day giveaway or something like that. Yeah. Use Studio app. It's called literally Studio.
It's called Studio. Is it called Studio or Studio app?
It's called Studio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's actually really helpful because they have a lot of pre-made graphics. So you don't have to spend time making banners and whatnot. All you could do is you could just upload your picture, and then that banner pops on top of your picture, and you can move that banner that you're looking to move in any spot on that photo. So for example, if I'm having a sale and I want to have a banner that says sale, I don't have to go into Photoshop or even go on any websites to do that. I could just pull up on the app and find a banner that has sale on it with some hearts or stars or whatever else you're into, and just upload my picture, and then I can resize that particular graphic to fit that photo and change the fonts, and you can just basically customize it however you want. It just takes out that hard work of looking for that perfect banner and then creating it out. So you just plug in your photo, resize it, bam, it's finished.
Okay, so for someone who does that, basically you send this is a phone app, I assume.
Yep.
Okay, so then do you email the picture back to yourself so you can get it onto your iPad where you're doing your listings or your computer where you're doing your listings?
Very good question. You brought me to my next little trick here. So the next thing I use, it's a little thing called Google Photos, kind of like Google Drive if you guys are into sharing things via cloud.
Yeah.
Basically, same thing. So you upload that particular photo that you used or that you created in Studio app onto the Google Photos app. And what it does, it's basically like a cloud. It syncs all your photos and keeps them in the same spot. So then you don't have to go through the process of sending yourself the same photo you just edited, getting that email. You could just put it in the app and it's there. You could just open your computer and download it to your computer.
Perfect. Now, is the Google Photos, I use Google Drive. I've not used the photos, like Google Photos. Is that part of their free package?
Yes, it's free, and guess what? There's no memory. There's unlimited memory. You can do however many pictures
That was
you
my
want.
next question is, what's the memory cap? Oh, okay. Well, good to know.
None. Yeah, they resize all your photos. You just, you don't want to send them photos that are like 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels.
Yeah.
What they do is they resize all your photos for internet, which is another step that you have to do if you're using Photoshop, because sometimes what happens is if you edit a picture in Photoshop, it turns out to be a really big size.
Huge, yeah.
Then you put it on your website. It takes like 3 hours to download and your traffic slows down because of that.
Yeah.
So what Google Photos does automatically is they resize your photos for the internet, and you don't have to go through that process of resizing your photos in Photoshop.
And you don't notice any loss in picture quality?
No, everything stays absolutely the same.
Okay. And then how on Etsy they recommend a certain minimum size. When Google resizes your photos, does it still meet at least the minimum recommended photo size that Etsy has?
It does meet the minimum. It actually is a little bit more than the minimum. So your photos turn out to be looking just as professional if you were just uploading them from Photoshop. It's the same exact thing, because I do that all the time with my photos now too.
Okay. And then Anna, for the Studio app, do you know if it's available in both the iTunes App Store and the Google Play I don't know what Google calls theirs.
I don't know.
I think it's called the Google Play, but for Androids.
Oh yeah, I have no idea. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know it's available for iPhones because I have an iPhone, so I have no idea, to be honest with you.
Oh, you're an iPhone snob. Well,
Darn.
okay, I'll look into it. I have an iPhone too, so I don't know much about Google, but I'll look into it and see if it's compatible for both. And I'll put that in the show notes. I'll put links to both the Android store and the App Store for iPhones in the show notes.
Yeah, I see how they wouldn't make it for Android.
I would imagine there's usually most of the good apps have it available for both, so I don't think that would be a problem.
Yeah, definitely very helpful and useful because, like I said before, sometimes you're using multiple devices to take pictures, edit them, etc. You don't have to send them to your email and then you have to go look through your email, download them, waste time. It's just kind of streamlines that process.
Yeah. Okay, great. So Anna, okay, wait, were you done with that? Because I want to ask you something else.
No, you're good.
Okay. So one of the things I want to talk about is you have 2 shops now. Oh, and then we still need to talk about your website, which you revamped, but we'll get to that. But
we're getting there.
Yeah, let's talk about your 2 shops because like you said, the Bare Sandals shop is mainly just the Bare Sandals, and it wouldn't make sense to offer earrings and necklaces because people would go there looking for the sandals. So you opened up a second shop. Let's talk about that. It makes sense because it's a whole different product line that you would want to do that. But there have been some challenges that you've met along the way, I would assume, with having 2 Etsy shops. And I want us to talk about that because I know a lot of sellers consider 2 shops or have 2 shops. And so for others who are in that situation, let's talk about what it's like running 2 independent Etsy shops.
Sure. So my second shop is Heart of Wonder, and it's any type of other jewelry that you can think of, basically rings, earrings, necklaces, bracelets, hand chains, head chains, everything else that falls into the jewelry category. And so I opened Heart of Wonder because I still enjoy making earrings and still enjoy making bracelets and other types of jewelry, but I thought it was kind of silly to have those particular types of jewelry in Bare Sandals because literally the title of Bare Sandals is Sandals. So if customers would go to my sandals page and they would look at my other jewelry, they may be confused to why there are earrings in the shop called Bare Sandals. So this was the kind of the starting point why I wanted to open the second shop. And so what I did was for the second shop, I took pictures the same way, wrote listings the same way I did for Bare Sandals, but it's just basically everything else that falls into the jewelry category. Okay. The most challenging thing has been managing 2 shops at the same time. And Heart of Wonder, we don't have a lot of sales. I only have about 50 or 60 sales there. And that is because literally I have no time at all to run 2 shops. Bare Sandals has been kicking my butt, in a good way, for the most amazing time now, for 2 years. And so even though I have this second shop, I just don't have time to promote it and work on the listings and, do everything else that has to deal with running 2 shops. I think having 2 shops is great, but if you have a full-time job and you're working on your business and you open your second shop, you're really putting too much stuff on your plate. Yeah. I think that it's really important to concentrate on one thing. And if that one thing is working for you, then guess what? Stick with it. Don't do anything different. Stick with that one thing that's working. So my other shop, Heart of Wonder, serves the purpose of just being there. And if someone buys something from there, I'll go ahead and make it really quickly and then ship it out. But I don't even have my business cards for them yet because literally I just don't have time for this. So it's busy, super busy.
So would you say it's still worth it to have that second shop open even though you you can't massage it and give it the attention that you give your flagship shop?
That's a really good question. And sometimes I really do ask myself that. Was it worth it opening it? I think it was, because you can always say in your shop, in your second shop, that, hey, look, I'm the same person that does this. And hey, look, I have a lot of reviews and they're all 5 stars and I'm going to give you a really good quality product. So buy from me. But at the same time, it is time consuming. And if you want your second shop to be successful, you do have to put in time for it. And you do have to work on the tags and the titles and the SEO and like everything else that goes into running a shop. So if people are feeling adventurous and if they want to do it, great. But if you're someone like me who has like multiple jobs and you have to be everywhere and, in 20 places in the same day, then it definitely gets overwhelming. So it's a 50-50. I don't regret it that I opened it, but I also, I'm not like, I have 2 shops and I'm making bank.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's definitely a lot of work, because then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, who's my customer for the second shop? Okay. Who am I going to attract, with the jewelry in the second store? What kind of keywords those people would use to purchase my product, like, etc. You have to go through the entire process, and it's extremely time consuming.
Okay. Would you consider, so let's kind of segue that into the website. So do you think it would make sense to have those on the website as well, or you also want to keep your website, which is mybearsandals.com, purely just the Bear Sandals?
Yeah, I definitely want to keep Sandals as Sandals, because with regular jewelry, you're looking at competition to no other level. I mean, everyone makes jewelry and everyone's really good about it, and people have amazing product and, a set of skills that I could only dream about. Mm-hmm. So with just typical jewelry, it's super hard to break out and make yourself stand out. Mm-hmm. I feel like with Sandals, it's already unique as it is, and a lot of people don't do sandals. So I already have kind of like an upper hand on my competition in terms of jewelry, period, because it's a different type of jewelry. So I only have to compete with people that make barefoot sandals, essentially.
Right. That makes sense.
So in terms of the website, I definitely want to just keep it as Sandals. That's it.
Okay. What do you see as the future for Heart of Wonder?
Haven't thought about that. If you ask me about this question for Bear Sandals, I have an answer. But
I know you do.
For Heart of Wonder, I mean, if it, like people like my jewelry, like earrings and necklaces, yay, I'll send you a couple. But if not a big deal. If it dies, it dies. Okay. No big deal.
Okay.
If it continues to grow, great. Let's make some more necklaces.
Yeah. And that makes sense, because Bear Sandals is where you started. It's obviously where your heart is, but as creative people, there's always something else we're making or want to make or do. So I think your situation is not unique for a lot of people who listen to this podcast, where we do more than one thing, and we wish we could do everything well, but we just can't.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for the both shops, I mean, if you are not selling your jewelry or your product online, I mean, you could also go the route where you can go to craft fairs and markets and things like that. So that's something to consider as well, because for sandals, I know it's very, very specific and very specific to brides. Yeah. So even if I did go to craft fairs, not a lot of brides or not a lot of people would buy my sandals, because A, it's very, very specific, and B, like I said before, people love other types of jewelry, and sandals is very different. So, they're kind of apprehensive to purchasing the sandals at a craft fair or live in person. And I have done a couple of craft fair shows, and that's exactly the result I've got. A lot of my other jewelry is sold in person, like necklaces, more conventional stuff like earrings and etc. And the sandals were just kind of hanging out. Okay.
Now let's talk about your website. So you've revamped it. You've come back. It looks really great. Did you do it yourself, or did you outsource that work?
I did it myself.
You did? What did you use?
I did. Yeah, so I use Shopify as my platform.
I love it. Yes.
Shopify is amazing for anybody that's interested in having their own website. There are definitely pluses and negatives for having your own website because you really need to know your SEO stuff. And you've got to stay on top of it 100% of the time because Etsy does SEO differently. And so you don't have to worry about, writing crazy product descriptions on Etsy. It's basically Etsy has its own authority with Google. But since you are going to be opening your own website, you need to kind of show Google that you are a real business and, you sell product as well. To do that takes so much time. I don't think people realize that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely hard, but it was worth it. I think that having a good website and a solid website where people can purchase your products from is essential because you never know what can happen in the future. I mean, what happens if Etsy increases its listing fees to like $5 a listing?
Yeah.
Are you still going to stay on Etsy? I mean, it's just one of those things where you don't want to have all of your eggs in one basket. And so my website serves the purpose of also building kind of like a brand awareness. Yeah. And also, it allows people to purchase products from the website. On the website, I only have limited quantities and quality listings available there because on the website, I only focus on the best sellers. So I don't have random little pieces of sandals I created in the spur of the moment. I only put the best sellers on the website. So if you compare the numbers of listings I have on the website versus Etsy, on my website, I have 96. On Etsy, I have 268.
Oh, okay. And I think on the website, is it easier to group them according to the collections? Like you said, you just launched the new Goddess collection. Are you able to do that on Etsy as well?
You can make a collection on Etsy as well. You know how there's a side menu on the left-hand side? And it's basically the same thing. I have a Goddess collection in Etsy as well. But on your website, you have a little bit more choices of how you want to present that. You can have a drop-down menu. You can have like a sticky menu that just sticks to your left side of the page if that's what you're into. There's a lot more customization available for people that have their own websites.
Okay. And then now I know you're making sales through your website already. Did you have to do a lot of SEO on the website to start getting traffic to it, or were those incidental?
Tons of SEO. Tons. You guys have no idea. Tons. It's so much work. I can't even tell you. Shopify is great because they provide you with cart, they provide you with templates you can use to make your page look amazing, but they don't do any SEO. And so I had to learn so much stuff about SEO. My head is still spinning from that. And, the views that I get from my website are just a fraction of the views I get on Etsy. But with that in mind, the conversion rate on my website is a lot higher than it is on Etsy, surprisingly. So to give you an example, let's say I get like 20 visitors per day. Out of those 20 visitors, I'll get one person buying.
This is on Etsy.
And on Etsy, on Etsy, I'll get like 400 visitors a day and I'll get like no sales. It just depends. It really depends. So higher number of views doesn't necessarily mean that people will buy.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, there are days on Etsy where I'll make, I'll get like 10 orders in the same day. And then there are days like today where I haven't gotten an order yet. So it all depends on Etsy, but with your own website, you're in control and you do have to do your own SEO. So I strongly suggest reading up on SEO and kind of thinking if this is something you're up to, because it's a big task. Okay. Definitely.
So I have two more questions regarding that. Do you have to optimize each listing that you have on your website, or do you do the optimization through the content section, like the blog?
You have to optimize each listing.
Oh, wow. Okay. Then that is a lot of work.
A lot of work. And the funny thing is that I'm sure you know this, that if you have the same exact wording in your listing as on Etsy, Google doesn't like that because Google doesn't duplicate content. So you actually have to rewrite each listing differently and have it be different than your Etsy listing. So this is why it just takes so long, because you have to think about, how can I say the same information in a different way? And also you have to optimize your photos. And I'm not sure if you know that, but
Yeah,
it's
you mean with the alt tags and all that?
yes,
Yep.
all
Mm-hmm.
tags, you have to write tags, descriptions. And also a very important thing that I learned, and I was going to share a little bit further down, but since we're on photos, if you rename your photos, when you take the picture, you know how it's like IMG 2016, whatever.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You rename that file and you name it, let's say, turquoise barefoot sandals.
Yeah.
That is actually a lot better for SEO than having it be just IMG 2016.
Right. I've heard that. Yes.
Yeah. Because when Google looks at your photos, it doesn't look at the actual photos because it can't read a photo.
Right.
It reads the back file from it. And so when Google is optimizing your site and optimizing the images, instead of reading and instead of looking at it like this and, looking through your website and seeing the photo name as IMG 2016, Google doesn't know what IMG 2016 is.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, all right, great, there's a picture. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But if you name your photo turquoise barefoot sandals, Google is going to say, okay, great, this is turquoise, so I'm going to put this in the turquoise section.
Yeah.
And these are barefoot sandals. I'm going to stick them into search where people search for barefoot sandals. So it's a little bit easier to optimize your images.
Yeah. Anna, that's such a valuable piece of information you said there, because, yeah, I think most people forget to change the image names. Most people don't even know that you can change the name of your image. And that helps a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And I've started to do that actually recently because it adds another step to my photo editing process, but it does make a difference. For example, the market for barefoot sandals, it's not that saturated, but there's a lot of competition. Mm-hmm. And so if you go on Google and if you search for barefoot sandals, you go to the image section, image tab, you actually can now see my products popping up. Before, I was on like page 35. I mean, no one's looking at page 35. Let's be real.
Unless you're looking for yourself, then you're looking at
page 35. I mean, hey, I know I was on page 35 because I've actually done that.
Yes. I've done that too before. I'm like, oh, here I am, page 67.
It's like, what are the chances of that? Yeah. Definitely.
So Anna, now you had the website way back when we spoke the first time, but like you didn't really get into like focusing on it till recently. When do you think is a good time for one to say, okay, now I need to work on building my brand off of Etsy, in addition to Etsy, because, if you're still staying on there like you are?
It all depends on each person. What are your goals? What is that person's particular goals? Do they want to make money off of their craft full time? If yes, I think they should invest in a website as soon as possible, because you want to start building brand awareness and you want to spread information about yourself as an artist as soon as possible. So you don't have to sell anything on your website just yet. If you're not there, you can just give people information, post pictures of the customers wearing your craft or whatnot, and have a blog. But if you're thinking of just doing this art thing as part-time and just enjoying your life and kind of having a hobby, then I think just having Etsy is going to be fine as well. So you don't have to have a website. I think people that are really serious about their craft should definitely invest in a good website for sure.
Okay. Anna, what is or are some of the resources that you're using now that you absolutely love and would like to recommend?
So I just recently discovered Fiverr.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't know what a Fiverr is, it's awesome. It's basically these people that do tasks for $5.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yep.
Now, for people like me, and I'm pretty cheap in terms of outsourcing, Fiverr has been great, because the one thing I dread the most is writing blog posts. I hate blogging. Really? I hate it. Oh my God, I dread it. it's like pulling teeth to me, to be honest with you. And I know blogging is like the number one thing you can do for your SEO and for your website because it's fresh content, right?
Yeah.
So I outsource my blog posts through Fiverr. And actually, I have another friend that writes blog posts for me as well from my college. But I outsource that 100%. I don't even touch my blog posts. Only randomly once in a while, I'll come in and I'll write something. But I just think even writing a paragraph, to me, it's tedious. So Fiverr has been a great help with that because, again, you can have people write your blog posts for $5. And that is amazing.
Yeah. I know for another website that I run, completely separate from Etsy, I did outsource some of the writing to Fiverr, and it's amazing what you can get for $5. I mean, some of them I was like, why are you doing this for just $5? But they're trying to build a reputation and build their portfolio or what have you. But yes, Fiverr, I love Fiverr. I don't know if you know this, but I think I've mentioned this once before on the podcast that the intro and the outro music, Fiverr.
Oh, was it really?
Mm-hmm. I found someone who was doing, I found a gig on Fiverr. It was a bit more, I think it was more like 15 because you can add on things. Yeah. So I added on a couple of things, but yeah. So definitely, if you don't have a huge budget and you want to get some stuff done, check out Fiverr. There's almost always somebody who can do what you're looking for, and read the reviews too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just had a press release be completed with one of the writers on Fiverr, and she came back and I was like, yes, this is exactly what I needed. And it would have taken me like 7 days because I hate writing. So not worth it. Okay. Another thing I use is Google Voice. Have you ever heard of that?
Have I? I use it too.
Oh, yay. Google Voice is awesome. As you know, you can register a phone number of your choice and you can give it out as your business phone number to people. You can put on your business cards. And what Google does is it transfers your phone calls from that particular number to your cell phone. So when people are calling you, they think they're calling that random number, but they're really calling your phone because it rings from your end. So it's awesome.
I love Google Voice. Yes.
Yeah, and it transcribes your phone calls.
Oh, yeah, that's the best thing. Yeah, if someone leaves a message, it will transcribe the call for you.
Yeah, and you get a text message too, because you can sign up for like the option where you get a text with like the voicemail.
Yeah.
How sweet is that? I don't even need to check my voicemail.
Yes. Yeah, I love Google Voice.
Yeah, that's really helpful because, some people don't want to give out their personal cell phone numbers on their website or to customers, and that's extremely helpful to have.
Yeah.
To create shipping labels as an alternative to Etsy, I use Goshabo. Have you ever heard of them?
No, I have not.
Basically, Goshabo is another shipping company. It's an alternative to printing shipping labels from Etsy. So my Shopify store is synced with Goshabo. Okay. And so how Goshabo works is it's the same exact thing. You basically create shipping labels, and Goshabo takes 10 cents per shipping label that's their commission. So every time you use and you create a label through Goshabo, their commission is 10 cents. So they add 10 cents to your overall order. Doesn't matter international or domestic or anywhere in the world, it's just 10 cents. So it's awesome.
Well, Anna, what's the advantage of using Goshabo over Etsy shipping labels?
They're really, to be honest with you, I only use Goshabo because I have Shopify. So I can't print a label for orders that come in through my website on Etsy because you have to have an order to print an order, a shipping label. So I use Goshabo through my website. So any orders that come in through mybearsandals.com, they go directly to Goshabo.
I see.
Does that make sense? Because I can't put in new information in Etsy and say, hey, someone purchased this pair from mybearsandals.com, because Etsy won't let me do that. So that's just another alternative that you can do.
Okay. And is it
GO?
Sorry, what was that?
You can also do the same thing through PayPal if you don't want to do that.
That's right. PayPal does that. Now, Goshabo, is it GOSHIPPO or just one P?
2 P's.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Goshabo. Yep. Super easy. So just an alternative to to shipping labels. But other than that, it worked great. No issues. My packages are delivered all the time, and you can track it, and you actually get a notification if you choose to do that, to be notified when your package is delivered. That's the only thing that it's a little bit different from Etsy, because if you print your label on Etsy, it doesn't send you a message when that item was delivered. But you can do that on Goshabo.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
and I will have links to all of these. If you're listening and you're doing something else while you're listening to this, go to convome.com, and I will have links to everything, and not just these resources, the Fiverr, Google Voice, and Goshabo, but all the other links that Anna mentioned earlier in the podcast will all be in the show notes or the blog post for this episode.
Yeah, I actually have just a couple of more things I do want to mention, because I think these are really, really important, and they have to deal with customer service, because there's also a couple of things that I've noticed from my experience that increased my sales and helped me kind of get more buyers to actually buy versus buyers browsing my shop and then leaving without buying. So I just want to make sure that people are aware of these things, and I do want to share with everybody some of these things. So the number one thing, and this is, again, mind blown. If you have a convo that is sent to you on Etsy messages, try to answer it, if not immediately, within 30 minutes. Yeah, this sounds crazy. And I know people have lives. And trust me, I have a full-time job. Sometimes I'll get a message at work and I'll be like, oh, crap, I need to answer this right now. But I'm teaching. I can't. What am I going to do? But literally, if you answer your messages that come in, inquiries about your product immediately or within the 30 minutes of people sending you that message, the customers are a lot more likely to buy. And I've actually tested that theory yesterday again, yet again, when I was at work and I received a message at 8 o'clock in the morning about a bride wanting to buy 4 pairs of bare sandals for her bridesmaids. And I was just swamped. I did not get to it until 2:45. And when I responded, she said she already purchased from somebody else.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So people, when they're messaging you, you want to get on it and you want to, definitely address their concerns and answer their questions as soon as possible. Yeah. Because when people are looking at your items and people are excited, they have that feeling. They're like, oh, yes, I want to buy this. This is perfect.
Yeah.
And so the question, they want that question answered immediately. And if you're able to do that, you're a lot more likely to get a buyer out of it versus lose a sale.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense, because I've been in that position before. And yes, if I don't hear back quickly, I'm like, and if somebody answers me and answers my question, I'm like, okay, sold.
Another thing is increase your prices, because you want to position yourself as the top seller in your particular niche. If your prices are lower, people are going to think the quality is not that good. So when people, we can have a whole discussion on just pricing itself, but keep in mind that you want to make sure that your product are positioned in a way that people think they're buying really top-notch quality, which is, they are buying top-notch quality because someone personally made it and it was handmade by you. But if you're selling your stuff for like $10, people are going to think that you bought it in China and then just modified it, and that's what you're going to get. So definitely raise your prices.
Yeah, okay. So between the last time, sorry, Anna, between the last time we spoke and now, have you increased your prices and you found that did work?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I have increased my prices twofold. Okay. So now something that was like $15 before is now like $33.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. Good to know.
Yeah. And speaking on prices as well, really quickly, sometimes a lot of people get convos of people saying things like, hey, I really love this and I want to buy this, but this is too expensive. Could you sell this to me for like $10 less? Here's what you do. Ready? Okay. You have to agree with the buyer. You could say, yes, I do agree. I mean, this item is very highly priced. But then after you agree with that buyer, explain to them why they should buy it from you and what makes your product better than anybody else. Because what happens is if you say, well, no, my prices are the same and they're not going to change and I don't care what you say, the buyer is already kind of standoffish as it is. So they don't want to do business with you as it is. But if you agree with them first and say, hey, yeah, you know what? I agree. My prices are pretty high, but you get really quality product. You get 30 days free returns and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
They tend to be more on your side versus kind of against you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I wonder what impression it would leave if you did lower your pricing.
Right, because then they get the feeling that they're at flea market and they can bargain their way through anything in your store, which is not how we want to position ourselves.
Now, what if someone approached you and said, okay, I want to buy this in bulk. Would you give me a discount for a bulk purchase? Is that a different situation? Okay.
Absolutely. I usually have a bulk order discount for 15%.
Okay.
Yeah, usually if there's a bride that wants to buy like 20 pairs or even like 5 pairs for her bridesmaids, and she actually asks me for a discount, then yeah, I'm going to offer her 15%. Or you can offer her free shipping. People love free shipping stuff. Yeah. So that's another thing.
Yes.
But if you, I usually don't offer the discount unless I'm asked. I know that's kind of selfish, but yeah, I will not offer a discount unless a bride emails me or a customer emails me and asks me for a discount.
Well, no, yeah, that makes sense because I've read articles where they say, if you want to buy something, ask for a discount because more often than not, you can get one, but they won't advertise that you can get a discount.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so another thing that I definitely want to mention is the negative feedback. Now, I haven't had negative feedback, knocking on wood as we speak. Been very lucky, but I did receive like a 3 out of 5 star, a couple of feedbacks on Etsy. And if that happens to you, or if you get 1 star out of 5, or you're just not happy with the feedback that somebody left you, message that person, message it. All right. And say, hey, I saw that you left a 3 out of 5 star feedback. How can I make it better? What can we do to make your issue disappear, so to speak? Mm-hmm. So recently, pair of sandals that I shipped out to somebody was a little small, and she left me a 3 out of 5 star feedback. And I messaged the buyer and I said, hey, I really appreciate your feedback. Thank you for letting me know that the sandals didn't fit you. I will be happy to remake you the pair and send it to you over the weekend. If you just please revise your review to have it reflect the customer service that you received. And so the buyer was actually more than willing to cooperate. She fixed her review, gave me 5 stars, and she still said that the sandals were a little bit too small, which is exactly what I want my customers to know, that sometimes you have to order a size up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So address these things. Don't retaliate, but address the issue, because more often than not you can fix them.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you have negative feedback, just think of it this way. This is your chance to shine, and this is your chance to prove to the customers that you're amazing and your customer service is a top notch. And so by actually addressing those issues and not, being upset or taking it too personal, you're giving them an opportunity to see how you handle these situations. So they're a lot more likely to come back and shop from you in the future because they know that you stand for your word and you're going to actually follow through. Does that make sense? Makes
perfect sense. Yes, it does.
Yeah. And I know that we've already been talking for an hour and 20 minutes.
Really? Oh, man.
But I have one more thing. I promise, and then I'm done.
Go on. This is all good stuff. All right. I'm glad.
We only got through like 5 pages of my 10-page notes. Come on, we have to have another podcast.
Okay, there'll be part 3 then, because we need to get to the other 5 pages.
I know, right? All right, so one more thing. What you want to do is you want to have your customers become your repeat customers. And this is important because a lot of times customer acquisition costs can be expensive if you are paying for advertisement and you're doing all of these things to promote your Etsy shop and whatnot. What you want to do is, it's very simple. If a customer decides to purchase something from your shop, make sure that they have the best experience they can ever have. So for example, if someone spends a lot of money in my shop, let's say they spend $250 on sandals, that's a lot of money. Because they're spending that much money, you know how you make stuff and you have scrap materials left over?
Yeah.
Well, make something for them from the scrap. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything. It maybe takes another 5 to 10 minutes. So usually if I'm making 6 pairs of barefoot sandals and I have some scrap materials left over, I'll throw in a free pair of earrings. Just because this customer is spending $250 already in my store, a free gift. Because honestly, the customer is going to receive your package. They're going to open it. They're going to go through all the products. And then at the end, they're going to see that gift and they're going to be blown away. They're going to be like, oh my God, like, wow, that's awesome. I just got a free pair of earrings or whatever else that you want to include. Yeah. So that's definitely something to consider. When you're writing invoices, you know how you can print invoices from Etsy? Yeah. Yeah, don't do that.
Really? Why?
Not because it's bad or, it's a negative thing, because you have better opportunities to promote your brand if you have a custom invoice. So for example, I literally created my invoice. It's very simple and I'm actually looking at it right now. And basically it just has my logo on top and has my address, contact information, my website, my phone number, and a little simple chart where it says quantity, purchase, product description, size, and then, price. So, but at the end, you can add your own message. And so my message that I have on my own website, invoice, it says, thank you for your business. We truly appreciate your support of small handmade businesses like Bare Sandals. Please let us know if you have any issues with your purchase by emailing us or giving us a call. And we're looking forward to your feedback. And then I usually add my signature in the bottom. And on the bottom, I have little icons for social media. So I have a little Instagram social media icon and it says Bare Sandals, Facebook, Twitter, Google, Pinterest, etc. So you can just customize that invoice to fit your needs. Yeah. And customers really love when you use their name in the invoice. So you can say something like, thank you for your business, Ashley, or thanks for supporting small handmade businesses like mine, Kara, or something like that. It doesn't matter what you say, but use their name.
Yeah. So is this an invoice? Is this a document that you go in and modify for each sale that you make? Or is it tied into a program that automatically pulls in information for you?
I actually it's a template. So it's just a piece of paper, and on it, like I said, it has a little chart and then has the space for the name, the date, the order number, and the notes. And what I usually do is I just print one and then I make 100 copies of it, literally. And so I handwrite every single order.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and so because I handwrite every single order, the customers feels really special because look, it's a real person writing my own name here and telling me what I purchased. There's a signature there. Hey, they stand for their word because you know what? If I'm not happy, I'm going to give them a call. What the heck? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you include the number on there, that your Google Voice number too, so they can call?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Oh. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and you can add little pictures on that special invoice, like if you're trying to promote your brand via social media, or usually on Instagram, I have my own hashtag. I use hashtag #MyBareSandals, and so customers can use that hashtag to show off their product that they purchased from me. So I don't have to search, the internet to see if my sandals are on some blog or some website. They can just use the hashtag. Yeah. And so having your own invoice like that, it just helps you customize and promote brand awareness one more time. You don't have to. I mean, you can use Etsy's invoices, but it's just, everyone's doing it. You want to be different.
Yeah, I hear you. Oh, the wheels are turning because I'm thinking, well, on the one hand, does it take more when like your shop is really vamping up? Does it take more time away to handwrite the invoices on the one hand? But on the other hand, it's so personalized. And when somebody buys handmade, especially from Etsy, that's what they're expecting. And so having a handwritten, well, at least partially handwritten invoice adds to that whole, yes, I bought this handmade. It was made for me by this person.
Yeah, especially since, it's a very unique, personalized shopping experience. And that just reinforces it. Okay. Oh, or you can have your mom come over and, write your invoices. That's what I do. Hi, Mom.
Oh, you put your mom to work.
Oh, yeah. Every weekend she's like, hey, Anna, do you need any help? I'm like, yes, come over. He brings me lunch. Nice. It's a win-win.
Oh, nice. Okay, Anna, I have to have you come back again because I know
Yes,
you have a
because
lot
literally, I'm
more
looking at my notes.
to say. So we're going to do this again. But before I let you go this time, do you have an Etsy shop shout out?
I do. I absolutely do. I've been actually following your Etsy shoutouts, and I love this new little feature that you do because I think it's just a great promotional tool. So I do want to give a shout out to Brian Jenkins, and he has a shop, and the shop's name is Worn Elements. And he also makes jewelry using sea glass and different kind of earthy elements that he actually finds himself on the beach. So him and his wife, they take vacations and they go and searching for these awesome treasures on the beach, and then they make jewelry with those treasures that they find. So I think it's just awesome. And actually, Brian helped me out a lot in the beginning stages of my business. He's from New Jersey, and I reached out to him because I had a couple of questions about doing a craft fair at the time. And he's just been a really, really, really great person to talk to, and just been a great resource. So I do want to give him a shout out.
Oh, great. Now, is it ONE elements or the number 1?
Worn, like WORN.
Oh, WORN, Worn elements.
Yeah, my Russian accent is coming through. Sorry.
Okay, good. No, I just want to make sure so that I can get the right link to him. Okay, so that's Worn Elements, Brian Jenkins. And I'm going to have a link to his Etsy shop. Please do go check him out. Let him know Anna sent you.
Woo, woo. Yeah, definitely. He's awesome.
Now, Anna, what's the best way between now and when next you come on the podcast that people can get in touch with you?
All right. So the email that I check the most, it's super easy. It's customerservice@mybearsandals.com. It directly links to my email account. So you can just email me on that email and ask questions or just get in touch with me, and I will get back to you within 24 hours. You can get me a shout out on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. And my Instagram handle is Bear Sandals LLC. Unfortunately, just Bear Sandals was taken, so I had to add that.
Oh, do you know who?
Yeah. So I have half of those things that are like Twitter is also Bear Sandals LLC, but then Facebook is just Bear Sandals because half of them were taken. So now it's kind of funky, but it's all good. Just send me an email. I am on Facebook, on Instagram pretty much daily. I'm always posting something. Instagram is the one that I use the most at the moment. So just send me a direct message there and check out my website. That's about it.
Okay. I don't know why you always bring up topics that I want to ask you more about, but I'll make this really quick. Of the 3 social media outlets that you just mentioned, which do you think gives you the most bang for the time that you spend on it?
Definitely Instagram.
Okay, Instagram.
Definitely.
Okay, good.
And just to actually backtrack a little bit when you asked me about the resources, see, this is why we need another podcast.
We do need another one. There's too much.
When you said one of the resources that I use, a website called If This Then That, I've heard it being mentioned on your website, on your podcast a couple of times already. It's awesome. So what I do is I usually post a picture just on my Instagram account daily. And then that picture gets automatically reposted on Facebook, reposted on Twitter, reposted on Pinterest, just because I use If This Then That. So If This Then That triggers that action. And so it takes out that tedious reposting work out of your life. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. I use it too, and it's great. And earlier this week, we were talking about this in the Facebook group. They just announced, and it probably won't affect you since you do the recipe through using Instagram, but they will no longer support Etsy recipes, which is kind of sad for the people who have recipes set up using their Etsy shop. But if you're on social media, you can still work around it. They still have recipes that you can use. Wow,
that's a bummer. That's definitely a bummer.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate, but
I know. It's kind of sad, but well, it's workable.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll have links to all these resources as well. Like I said, everything we talked about here, just go to convome.com and look for okay. I don't know what the full URL will be yet because I've already used Bear Sandals for our other conversation.
Hey, Bear Sandals LLC.
Okay, there we go. So go to convome.com/Bear Sandals LLC, and all the links that we talked about will be there, and everywhere you can get in touch with Anna, and links to her Etsy shops and her website, which is mybearsandals.com. Anna, we're going to do this again, right?
Are you kidding me? I'm already setting up for next time.
Okay, good. All right. And I thank you so much for coming back on the podcast and bringing all this information. I like to tell people it's when people like you come and share what you've learned with the community that's really what helps the podcast be so useful to other people. And I'm so grateful for you coming back and doing this. So thank you, Anna.
And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share all this awesomeness that I've learned in the last 2 years. It's awesome to talk to you. You're amazing.
Oh, and there's more to come. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.